Bueno, primero gracias a todos por estar acá. La verdad que tenemos la posibilidad de recibir acá a Robin Austermann, que es el encargado de todo lo que es derechos audiovisuales de la Bundesliga en Latinoamérica. Para empezar, a mí me toca este rol de moderador y le agradezco a la Bundesliga el lugar que me ofrecen. Tuve la posibilidad de viajar ahora a Alemania hace un tiempo y experimentar precisamente partidos de Bundesliga y fue fantástico. Y quería empezar con una frase que a mí siempre me hizo ruido para bien, y era una frase de Gary Lineker que decía que el fútbol era un deporte 11 contra 11 donde siempre ganaban los alemanes. Y estoy seguro que todos hemos convivido con esa frase. De hecho, hasta esta última consagración nuestra hemos sufrido un poco, también los argentinos, esa frase. Y lo que más me interesó es saber de dónde nace, ¿no? O digo, cómo se argumenta el hecho de que un jugador como Gary Lineker diga eso y que todo el mundo del fútbol adhiera a semejante expresión. Y yo creo que hoy los logros de Alemania, una selección campeona del mundo 4 veces, que llegó a 7 finales, campeona de Europa 3 veces, que llegó a 6 finales de Eurocopa, campeona de fútbol femenino, campeón con el Bayern Múnich de múltiples torneos, Borussia Dortmund, Hamburgo, el Gladbach, equipos muy importantes a lo largo de la historia, pueden encontrar quizá este argumento en la fábrica que los nutre, ¿no? Uno es generalmente lo que come y hoy Alemania se nutre por la Bundesliga. Es una liga que empezó en los 60, que ha cambiado desde los 60 a hoy, y creo que es una linda posibilidad escucharlo a Robin aquí hablar del engagement que planea la liga para con esta región de Latinoamérica. Hoy es cierto que ya no hay un Juan Arango representando a Venezuela en el Gladbach, no está Pizarro, no está Santa Cruz, no hay un Farfán. Nosotros teníamos a De Michelis, a Klimovic, aquellos que por ahí lo recuerdan también, de Alessandro cuando fue a jugar. Ha estado el Quinsoto, el Tren Valencia, James, Vidal, Aranguis. Y hoy es cierto que por ahí no encontramos esa cantidad y calidad de jugadores en Bundesliga. Está Palacios, está Piero Hincapié, hay entre 9 y 10 sudamericanos jugando, pero no es hoy quizá el mayor atractivo para alguien de este lado del mundo decir voy a ver un partido de Bundesliga por quién lo juega, porque es de mi país. Pero creo que la Bundesliga y esta parte del mundo tienen algo mucho más en común que algún jugador de tu país que esté representándote. Y es la pasión con la que se vive el fútbol. La pasión con la que los hinchas viven el fútbol es muy similar acá. Y hasta por un lado te diría mejor porque conviven con una palabra clave que para mí es el respeto. Entonces yo siento que sería muy bueno ver cómo Robin nos explicará de qué manera Bundesliga pretende introducirse y seguir creciendo aquí en Latinoamérica, y también cómo nosotros podemos aprender de ciertas cuestiones para poder tener cada vez una liga mejor, sea el país que fuera, y para poder, lo más importante, darle el mejor producto a los fanáticos. Señoras y señores, el encargado de Europa, de Latinoamérica, de todos los derechos audiovisuales de la Bundesliga, el señor Robin Austermann. Bienvenido.
Muchas gracias.
Va a hablar en inglés, lo único.
Disculpa, pero voy a hablar en inglés porque es un poco más fácil para mí. So that was all my phrases. So I'm going to switch to English now. Thanks a lot. Muchas gracias, Francisco, for introducing me and also introducing the Bundesliga. And I'm very happy to talk today about and have the possibility to talk about the Bundesliga in general, about our approach and our approach specifically to Latin America. So to present to you what's our strategy here in Latin America, in the region, how do we get closer to our fans, and how do we use our media technology and everything we are doing to strengthen our local fan base and to engage with our fans. I'm just missing the clicker, so here we go. Correct. So actually, if we look at this picture, we see a very comprehensive approach. So our innovative approach to strengthen our local fan base is built on various pillars. So we have the football as it's meant to be approach. I will come to that in a second. With entertaining football and the stadium atmosphere, everyone, I guess, is aware of in the Bundesliga. Thanks a lot. And this exciting football and the entertaining football on the pitch needs to be translated into a media product. This media product being broadcasted by our strong local broadcasters and also the pan-regional broadcasters on linear TV, but also on digital, and we know that we as a Bundesliga, to really make a difference here in the region, that we also need to be close to our fan base, that we need to do activities on ground here, and that we actually also have to communicate it on a PR and B2B basis. So to start with, I will go into the details anyway in a second, but to start with, you can see hopefully a very nice clip.
We are the Bundesliga. We are just like you, but we are German too. And yes, we are the land of Lederhosen, Leverkusen, Baden-Baden, Kindergarten, Vorsprung durch Technik, Abitur, the Ruhr and Brandenburger Tor. Sure. But that's not all by far. We are the Verve. The 90-minute dream each week, the head and hands after defeat. The glory of the solo goal, the unfair loss, the broken soul. Sweat, tears, battle, stress and fierce tackles. Fight, stamina, fashion. Lights, cameras, passion. We are the Bundesliga. We are football, as it's meant to be.
So already introducing our football as it's meant to be claim to you, as you can see here. And I would like to present to you what does it mean in detail. So when we say football as it's meant to be, we talk about the football on the pitch, the excitement on the pitch, about the stars, like Harry Kane just coming to the Bundesliga, the global stars, but also the local stars, Ezequiel Palacios, the World Cup winner from Argentina, playing for Bayer Leverkusen, for instance, and many, many German World Cup winners from 2014 also still being in the league. And there are countless stories of our unique clubs, and probably if I would ask you what comes to your mind when we talk about the Bundesliga, not just being one European top league, probably many of you would tell me the fan atmosphere in the Bundesliga, that is what makes the league really special. So we claim to have a fascinating atmosphere in the stadiums. We have the highest average attendance across all European football leagues, as you can see here. So stadiums being sold out more or less all the time. Last season we had an all-time record in terms of ticket sales for Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2. And this is not a coincidence, that's quite important, that this fan culture is really part of our philosophy, and the philosophy of the club, of the league, but also of the clubs. So ticket prices are relatively low, with 26 euros on average for a ticket. If you go to the yellow wall that you've just seen in Dortmund, the stand with 25,000 people on the stands, you just pay more or less 15 euros. So really affordable. They could definitely sell the tickets for a higher price, but one reason to keep the ticket prices so low is to really welcome everyone in the stadium, to make sure that the club is part of the entire culture of the city, so that the fans really breathe the entire club. And this stadium atmosphere, for sure, is not just important for the people in the stadium who experience that firsthand, but also for our broadcast feed and everything which is coming next. But for sure, it's not just about the fans, it's also about the excitement on the pitch. So in the Bundesliga, there's some kind of guarantee of many goals. So once again, the comparison between the different leagues. So as you can see here, we are the league with the most goals on average per match in Europe, and also not a one-off. This has been the case in the last 30 years. We were just overtaken by another league 2 times. So you can see there's a guarantee of excitement, there's a guarantee of goals, and this, once again, is also being translated into the media product. And, fair point, some would say, Bayern won the title, plenty of times in the last years, but that doesn't mean that there's no excitement, that the league is not competitive at all. I guess most of you who are following European football remember very well the drama on the last match day in the very last season, and I can tell you personally, I've been in the stadium in Dortmund when Dortmund was ahead. They just had to win their match, their home match against Mainz, to become German champions, Bundesliga champions. they lost, so Bayern won the title once again, but this was a drama, this was more than exciting, and we have seen really records in terms of the ratings on a worldwide basis, so people were really following it, and the overall league was quite competitive, not just in terms of the title race, but also in terms of the fight for the Champions League spots, for relegation and so on. So there's a lot of drama on the pitch, and then, as I just outlined, for sure it's our approach to transfer this to an international audience and to translate the excitement on the pitch, this amazing stadium atmosphere, into suitable products, media products, content formats for our international broadcasters. From live matches to digital clips and to future-driven media innovations, which I'm going to outline in a second. But first of all, how do we do that? What's our approach here? Which is quite different to some other leagues. Not saying that we are doing it better, but this is our approach, the way how we see it. So our strategy is a glass-to-glass strategy. And I'm not going to bore you with some structural overviews or so. So the key message of this slide is that we as a Bundesliga, we are producing everything on our own. So everything under the umbrella of the DFL, which is the mother company of the Bundesliga, being responsible for the overall competition, but we also serve as our host broadcaster, meaning that we are producing all 306 Bundesliga matches, and that we also are responsible for the overall content production for our international broadcasters. And as you can see here from the action on the pitch, which is being then covered by more than 30 cameras on a regular match day, being translated into cool, exciting media products and then provided to our broadcasters like ESPN Star Plus. And the beauty of that is, you can see that the arrows are going into that direction. But for sure, that we are also quite flexible to react to the demands and the requirements from our broadcasters like ESPN. So that brings us really in a flexible position to deliver exactly those products which work really well for our broadcasters across the globe. And the pure volume of content is really amazing. So just to outline a couple of things from, once again, the live matches to the near live clips, seasonal content, we want to make sure that our broadcasters, or we want to enable our broadcasters to tell the stories about the Bundesliga on a day-by-day basis. Not just on the match day, but also to tell the exciting stories throughout the week with all of our content formats, with all of our products, and to deliver also exciting next generation broadcast products. So actually we are saying we are the league of the present, but broadcasting the innovations of the futures. And innovation is quite a big term. It's frequently used, so it's always best to show a few examples so that you can really see that we are bringing our innovative approach to life. And here's one example from Sky Mexico, one broadcaster from the region, from Mexico and Central America actually. They're using our so-called interactive feed. It's an award-winning feature which enables the user to create their own broadcast experience. So it's a technical feed being produced by the league and then embedded into the digital ecosystem of the broadcaster. In this case, Sky Mexico. You have clickable graphics. As a user, you can just enjoy the lean back mode and just watch all the action from the matches, but you can also decide to just focus on highlights of Borussia Dortmund, Bayern München, whoever it would be, what kind of team you follow. Here's a quick example.
Centro de Brani, en busca de Sebastián Alé, Emrellán desde fuera, ¡gol! Festeja Eric Maxam Choupo-Moting, qué gran trazo del héroe Sané para hacer Gnabry. Este condujo, trató de cerrar Simakan y a segundo palo la aparición de Choupo-Moting que de pierna derecha logra vencer a Janis Blasvik a casi nada.
Yeah, and just talking about other kinds of innovations, we are also hosting a so-called sports innovation fair every other month where we are testing the broadcast of the future to once again be on top of things, be ahead of media technology and deliver media products that are suitable for the needs of today, but also for the requirements in the future from our broadcast partners, be it on linear TV, be it on digital. And our recently launched product is the so-called Bundesliga Goal Arena, where we turned the fact that there are 5 matches kicked off in parallel on Saturdays into the advantage that we launched some kind of a conference mode or red zone, however you want to call it, where you can follow all the match actions from the different matches, jumping from stadium to stadium and not missing a goal. So from 5G experiences and testing new tactical feeds to innovative perspective and data-driven stories, there's a lot out there, and I could list even more examples of that. But the key message, once again, is that with our broadcast, we really want to bring our broadcasters in a position to not just tell the stories about the Bundesliga, but also to associate themselves with very innovative products, and that's part of our DNA. And talking about content, and content also specifically here for Latin America. We know everything you've seen so far is part of our international product portfolio for broadcasters. But being closer to the region and engaging with the local audience, we also understand that we need to produce content which is being used by our local broadcasters and which attracts people here. Because for sure, you guys, if you're here based in Argentina, I'm pretty sure that you want to follow the action of Ezequiel Palacios. If we are conducting interviews, it might be helpful for a broadcaster like ESPN if we do the interview with Xabi Alonso already in Spanish language and make it available. So making it as easy as possible for our broadcast partners to tell relevant stories, that's part of what we're doing, and we believe that this is one key, the tailor-made content, definitely a valuable tool to get closer to the fans in the region. And I've talked a lot about our broadcast partners now, but that's absolutely key because we have seen all the action on the pitch. We have seen the media products we are producing at the league, but at the end we also rely on our broadcast partners. So it's quite important for us to select pan-regional, local broadcasters who act as a multiplier of our messages. And what you can see here is a global map of our broadcast partners. So we are working with more than 75 broadcasters across the globe, really relevant ones, powerful media companies. If we look at Europe, we are working with Sky, DAZN, Viaplay to mention as a pan-regional multi-territory broadcaster. And here in Latin America, I will zoom in a second, we are also working with the powerhouses like ESPN. And this positive trend in terms of the popularity of the Bundesliga and the increasing interest is also reflected in our media rights deals. So for sure, it's key to select broadcast partners who transmit the matches, who deliver great reach, but it's also our approach to generate revenues. This season, this has just been published, we are generating more than 210 million euros for the 23-24 season, and this is definitely also a positive trend after some dips during COVID times and so on. We are now on a very positive trend again in terms of the open territories, which were open from last season to this season. We even increased our revenues by 50%, and so you can see that the overall growing interest in the Bundesliga on a global basis is also considerable in terms of our media rights revenues. But not talking too much about revenues, more talking about the actions and everything what's happening here in the region. In terms of Spanish-speaking South America, we are working, as I just mentioned, together with ESPN and Star Plus. So making the matches available on linear TV, on ESPN, and also being available on digital on Star Plus, this is really important for us to be everywhere. In Mexico, Central America, we are with Sky Mexico, as I just outlined. And also a very positive example I would like to present are our recently closed deals in Brazil, where we were, I would say, relatively creative with our approach to enter into a non-exclusive broadcaster environment, closing deals with different kinds of broadcasters to make sure that we are addressing different target groups. So from pay TV, where we are working with Sport TV and Nosso Football, making sure that we are Sport TV, I don't have to tell you, being the main pay TV channel of Global. We are now broadcasted as a Bundesliga directly prior to the Brazilian Serie A, which also gives a lot of reach and exposure to the league. But we know that you don't reach all the people just on pay TV. That's why we also closed agreements with digital players who are broadcasting in a very innovative way, like Kazé TV, you know, the guys who, with the Casemiro streaming, broke world records in terms of YouTube viewings during the FIFA World Cup. And we are now the first international league who's broadcasted regularly on a week-by-week basis on Kazé TV. And then also working together with established free-to-air partners like TV Cultura, Radio TV, and being also available on OneFootball as the home of the Bundesliga, broadcasting all of the matches, making sure that all Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 matches are transmitted. So actually, we are more or less everywhere, making sure that everyone has a chance to watch Bundesliga matches in the market. And we have touched on the digital piece a bit. So for sure, we are not in the area anymore where we can just rely on linear broadcast. We also know that we have to be very active in terms of our digital engagement strategies, that we need to work not just with broadcasters, but also with some local influencers, with content partners, to use them also as, once again, multipliers of our messages. Because we need to make sure, and to be honest, we know that we lacked a bit in the past of communicating what we are doing, maybe even compared to other leagues. So we want to be more active, we want to tell our stories, and we just can't do that on our own. So that's why we are working with different kinds of influencers, content partners. We are inviting them to Germany to come over. We are doing activities like here in Argentina with Bundesliga legend Lucas Barrios, and just using the power and the follower power of those guys to make sure everyone, also the young generation, is getting aware of the Bundesliga, and in an ideal world then tuning in and also becoming fans of the Bundesliga and watching it regularly on the match days. But we also know that you cannot just focus on digital engagement. We also need to be close to the fans once again when it comes to on-ground activations and on-site activities. So what we have done in recent months, you can see here 2 examples from Argentina, here from Buenos Aires and from Rio de Janeiro, where we refurbished football pitches, and we are working very closely together with local schools, with local communities to host watch parties, to do friendly tournaments. And actually that's also part of the approach, and that's also something we want to even increase in the future, to go out there, to not just talk to the people, but to really be close and do activities here in the region, and also leveraging the power of our clubs and not just the league, by hosting watch parties, doing content formats, and once again also giving back and working with local schools, communities. And as a final piece, the PR and B2B activities. So B2B is quite wide term. So we are hosting different events. We are conducting fan travels, media visits, where we invite journalists to come over to Germany to experience a Bundesliga match firsthand. So Francisco, you have been part of that in the past, because I believe it's the best way to really come over to see it, even as a journalist, what is the Bundesliga about, experience that firsthand, go back to Argentina and tell the people, hopefully, how great it is, and that everyone should watch the Bundesliga on a regular basis. So, but therefore, we need to once again engage with the local influencers, journalists, even fans, offering sweepstakes and all of that, and offering content also in local language and addressing the fan base directly. You have seen that these are quite a lot of activities what we are doing, and it once again comes back to the very comprehensive approach. There are different pillars. We need to work on all of them to increase the overall interest in the Bundesliga, the interest in the league here in Argentina, be it in Chile, be it in Colombia, here in the region. Because we know you have such a strong local league here in the territories. We are competing against other leagues, so we need to be loud, we need to be vocal, and we need to make sure people are following the league. And the good thing is that we see positive results, we see a positive tendency in terms of fan interest, people claiming to be Bundesliga fans, as you can see here in Argentina and Colombia, with a positive trend of around about 8 to 9%, people who are really saying, or an increase of 8 to 9%, people who are really saying, I'm a fan of the Bundesliga, I'm watching it. And yeah, in an ideal world, I will be here next year, and we have reached the 10 million milestone, not just the 9 million milestone, and we continue with that kind of approach, being closer to the fans and being more active to make sure everyone can follow and is following the Bundesliga here.
Well, bueno, ahora tenemos 4 minutos más o menos. Le voy a hacer un par de preguntas con respecto a la presentación. Van a ser en inglés, también a pedido de Robin. Robin, you were talking about the atmosphere and how special the fans are there. How fans are involved in the decision making? Le pregunto cómo están involucrados los fanáticos, los hinchas, en las decisiones que se toman no solo a nivel club, sino también a nivel liga. For example, this particular thing of not playing on Mondays. Like the fans didn't want to play on Monday, so Bundesliga crossed the Monday, and there are no games in that day.
Yeah, that's true. So the fans are they are quite vocal, but they're an important pillar of everything when it comes to the clubs. So the way also our clubs are considering the fans, they are not just seeing them as people who go to the stadium, watch a match and go home. So you know that we have the so-called 50+1 rule, which means that the clubs which are the fans which are members of the clubs, that they have the majority power and that they make the final decision at the end. So they are really part of the decision-making process. They are quite loud, but that's also the approach that they are an active part of our culture. So to be really an integral part of the clubs.
And you were talking about the experience in Mexico and in Brazil. Mexico is just one country, Brazil as well, besides the great population. In LATAM, you have different countries. It's the same language, but different countries. How different is the strategy to engage with this region, with Latin America?
Yeah, it's super important because back in the days, maybe even in 2015, we considered the region as the Americas. And I don't have to tell you, you know way better than I do, that this isn't the right approach because there are differences between Mexico, Central America, Spanish-speaking South America and Brazil. And even in Spanish-speaking South America, for sure there's a difference between Argentina, Colombia and so on. So with our content approach, we need to make sure that we once again target the people and tell stories which are relevant for Colombia, for Argentina, and so on. Here in the region, we are working with ESPN as a pan-regional broadcasters, but we are also working closely with them to make sure that in the local windows, in Sports Center or whatever, that exactly those stories are told, which are relevant to the territory. And just to pick up the Mexico example, where we are working with Sky Mexico, after also being part of a non-exclusive framework 3 years ago, Sky Mexico decided to enter into an exclusive partnership with the Bundesliga, and not just to broadcast the matches, but also to launch a 24/7 Bundesliga dedicated channel in Mexico, which is quite specific. Last year, they even conducted a so-called Team Week special, where they were following every single team for a dedicated week, and just educated the audience about clubs like Union Berlin, Bayer Leverkusen, Eintracht Frankfurt and so on, to make sure that there's a specific tone of voice and that they're also addressing the fans in a very specific Mexican way.
And we have just 1 minute, but I have one last question. We are used to see players in Bundesliga getting developed and then going away. It happened with Lewandowski, it happened with Haaland, with Bellingham. But now Harry Kane arrived to Bundesliga. I mean, how does the arrival of a player like Kane impact in the Bundesliga, in the broadcasters?
Yeah, so that's definitely great that a player like Harry Kane, being the English national team captain, is joining the Bundesliga. So you can see the Bundesliga attracts international star players. And we know that's part of the system, that some players like Haaland, Lewandowski, who developed in the Bundesliga, that they are being transferred to another league, to the Premier League. That's part of it, but for sure it's our job to maintain that level. And to do so, we are developing players on our own, so strong German players like Musiala, Wirtz, who will be the next, or the rising stars, I would say. And then adding international star players like Harry Kane, Bonucci just joined, the World Cup winner who joined Union Berlin, to make sure that those guys are also joining the league to maintain the very high level, and then adding it with some local players from different regions, be it Kim from South Korea, or I just mentioned, oh, he's not here anymore, but Ezequiel Palacios also, to having local stars in addition to global stars, and rising star players from Germany. So that's a really good mix, I would say. And the Harry Kane transfer, definitely one of the dominant topics during the transfer window. So quite happy that he has joined the league.
Thank you, my friend.
Muchas gracias, Francisco.
Ahí está. Robin Austermann, señoras y señores.